What's going on, everyone? Thanks for stopping by Frankie's Family Homestead, and today we're talking maple season. Why are we talking maple season in October? Well, because we're going to be prospecting for maple trees so that come end of February and in March, when maple season starts, you have trees identified and you're good to go. Now, this video is tailored for everybody that is thinking about doing this hobby or wanting to try this hobby out. If you are someone that already does this video is not going to apply to you. But maybe you're someone that saw a fellow homesteader making their own maple syrup last year, or you were at a festival and you thought, man, this would be really cool to try out. You don't need to live in a rural area. You don't need to have a ton of property. You can live in the suburbs or a densely populated area. If you have a maple tree on your property, you qualify and you can try this out. So why are we doing this in the fall? Well, the fall is just the easiest to identify a maple tree. They're the first to change colors, especially your sugar maples, which are going to have that vibrant yellow and orange and red color to them. Your other trees, like your oaks or your walnuts or your birch, those take longer to turn yellow and those colors. So a maple tree right now, for the next couple weeks, are going to be standing out amongst the crowd. We don't do this in the summer, or at least I don't do this in the summer, because everything is green, it's hot, it's humid. I don't want to be sweating through clothes like this. There's spiders and mosquitoes and everything that's just trying to eat you alive. I just don't bother with it. So I wait and give myself one solid month in October just to go through and look for maple trees. You don't want to do it in the winter because you obviously can't look for leaves. You can identify a maple tree based on its bark. It's a little bit more difficult to do, but if you're just thinking or trying to try this out, I would definitely start right now throughout the month of October. So identifying a maple tree based on its leaves is very simple. There's a lot of different types of species of maple trees. We're going to focus on just 3 of them, which is your sugar, your red, and your silver maple trees. If you have a maple tree, or you think you have a maple tree on your property, but you're not sure, and hopefully you have a branch that's within eye level, but if you can't see clear enough or what kind of leaf it is, you can always get pair of binoculars and then look up into the tree to see what kind of leaf it is. You don't have to buy anything fancy. These are just a basic pair that I use for some of the trees that are taller that don't have branches more at eye level. I'll look up just to see what kind of leaf it is. If your kids have a pair of binoculars, you can use that, but you don't need to spend a ton of money just to be able to identify a tree. So I mentioned there's 3 different type of leaves we're going to be focusing on: your sugar maples, your red maples, and your silver maples. So we'll start with the one that we really want to find, and that is your sugar maple. Your sugar maple is super identifiable. It's the logo that almost every sugar maker or maple syrup maker uses. It has 3 points to it, like all the maple tree leaves do. They all have a 3-point. They all will have a pointer that goes from the left and right outward, but we're going to focus strictly on this. There's technical terms to these leaves, but you're new starting out, you're not going to care about any of this. You just need to know what kind of maple tree is this. So this is a sugar maple, and the reason we know, we got the curves, really nice curves to this entire leaf. That's a dead giveaway that it is a sugar maple. If it has sharp points or anything that isn't resembling nice curves, it's not a sugar maple. So that's how we know it's a sugar maple. Next one we're talking about is a silver maple. It's a smaller leaf. Typically it's a smaller leaf than your sugar, and it's got very pointed knife-like edges to this entire leaf. Again, 3 points up. It's all going to have the ones going out left and right, but it's going to be very knife sharp looking on each of these sections. That's how you know it's a silver. And then finally, your red maple. Similar to a silver, it's going to look very similar, but it has very serrated teeth or saw blade like edges around each of the points. It also has this kind of U-shaped boat to the leaf itself. You're going to have each side pointing left and right, but it's going to look a little bit more rounded at the bottom, and then serrated teeth like a saw blade on each of these peaks. And that's how you know it's a red maple. And obviously it turns red in the fall, hence the red maple. So we've identified a maple tree. What do we do next? What's the right size to be able to tap a tree during maple season? Well, the rule of thumb is at least 10 inches in diameter. So you want, take a tape measure, bring it out, and find a tree that's right around that 10-inch diameter. You just go up to it around chest height, stomach height, and make sure it's at 10. So if this was just a tree by itself, and we were looking at just the trunk of this would qualify as far as 10 inches. Now obviously this is an older red maple, so that isn't the same, but if you were looking at strictly this as its own tree, this would be the ideal or minimum size that you would be able to tap with this. Now some argue that you need 12 inches. There's forums and people that go back and forth. 10 inches is what I go with, and there's a lot of people that go with 10 inches, but if you feel you want to go 12-inch diameter, that's perfectly okay. I leave that up to you. You don't want to go any smaller, because a smaller diameter tree you're going to be drilling into for the tap, and the drill that you have to drill 2.5 inches into the tree, and if it's a small diameter tree, you could hit the core of the tree, and if you hit the core, you're going to damage the tree. You potentially can kill that tree. So we've identified the leaf, we've identified it's the right size that we need. How do we mark it? Well, if you're only looking for 2 or 3 trees and it's on your property or at your house, you don't really need to do much. You should be able to remember where that's at. But if you're out in the woods and there's trails and stuff that you need to do and you're trying to remember, I strictly just spray paint it with orange, red, or yellow, just so that in the winter when everything is white and gray and just really in the grayscale, this will stand out from everything else. So I'll know this is where I need to go. Don't wrap anything around the tree. You don't want to wrap anything ever around the tree, and because you might forget that you had it wrapped, and over the years you're going to choke that portion of that tree if you have something wrapped, or it could break off, fall onto the ground, an animal could eat it, potentially harming some type of animal that is living around here. So let's not do that. You don't want to drill or screw or nail anything to the tree to identify that tree. Why? Because you could be setting it up for disease by putting a foreign body into the tree. And think of it this way, you have an open wound, you want to make sure that you keep that wound covered. You don't want to be putting anything, dirt, grit, oil, whatever it might be. You don't want to get anything on that open wound because it could get infected, and then you'll need an antibiotic. Well, trees don't have the luxury of running down to CVS to get an antibiotic. They will try to heal themselves, but if they can't, you ultimately could start killing that tree by having a foreign body in there. And then you might say, well, you just said you're going to be drilling and tapping the tree during maple season. This is true. The drill bit that you use and the tap that you use, you need to make sure is sanitized perfect before you put that into the tree. You don't want anything dirty. You don't want it's got to be perfectly clean. So you sanitize that stuff before you do that. All right, so we've identified that. We got the leaf, we got the size, and we got how to remember where it's at. What's the next step? Well, if you're going to be doing more than 5, make a chart. Go on Excel, or take a screenshot of an aerial view of your property and just put points of where your trees are at, so that when you go out into the woods in the winter, you can find where those are at right away without trying to remember where everything was at. The more experienced hobbyists, they'll actually do pin drops of where they are at in the woods. You can do that, latitude, longitude, and they'll have a map on their phone of where all the trees are at. But for us, we're just amateurs, we're just starting out. Just make a little list, take a screenshot of above your house, or just remember where it's at, and that's all you need. There's other ways to identify a maple tree. Maple trees drop the twirly birds that we're all familiar with. Those twirly birds, depending on the type of maple tree, will drop either in the spring or in the fall. So for example, sugar maples right now are going to be dropping a ton of these seeds everywhere. So if you find a sugar maple, it might look like there's a bunch of brown or tan on it. Those are actually all seeds getting ready to drop and twirl down and clog all our gutters and all that stuff. Your silvers and your reds will drop in the spring. And that's how you know typically those are silvers or reds, or at least that type of maple tree in the springtime. Side note, if you're trying to think, hey, I got maple tree seeds, let's try and grow a maple tree. It is actually really difficult to grow a maple tree. It requires cold stratification up to 6 months before that seed will actually sprout. I encourage it because it's a great activity to try and get your kids to do. But if you think you're going to be able to get these to sprout, it is really hard to do. Mother Nature is the best form of getting life to sprout. So I rely on just Mother Nature to do its thing for 6 months, and then I'll pull those trees up when they sprout and repot them in my own area. All right, sugar content. Another thing that we want to talk about in the video. So a sugar maple, hence the name, has the most sugar in the sap. That's why we're looking for sugar maple trees. Silvers and reds and other maple species have sugar content to them, but the sugar maples are going to have the highest concentration of sugar. And what I mean is, if you want 1 gallon of sap or 1 gallon of maple syrup from a sugar maple, you need about 40 gallons of sap from that tree. A silver and a red, you're going to need about 60 gallons to get 1 gallon of maple syrup made. You can combine the saps with the trees. You don't need to just focus on sugar maples. You don't need to focus on reds or silvers. You can combine all that sap together and it gives it a really good, unique taste. And honestly, most of the hobbyists, that's what we're doing. If you're a big operation, maybe you focus strictly on just sugars to keep that unique flavor to your brand. But if you're a hobbyist like us, everybody's just combining sap and it gives an awesome, unique flavor that you can share amongst other homesteaders. So don't just focus on one style. Focus on all of them, mark all of them, tap all of them. But yeah, that's the concentration for sugar. Just keep that in mind. And that's more detail we'll get into at a later date. Talk about the hobby itself. This is a really fun hobby to get involved with. There is some expense to it. If you're looking to get involved with it, I would say budget for around $150 for a starter kit. You could start now, put 10-15 bucks aside each paycheck, and by the time January and February comes, you'll have enough to be able to buy that kit. The kit comes for either 3 to 5 trees to tap. So this is why we're focusing on 3 to 5 trees to find. It'll come with everything you need. And we'll have different videos for that as the hobby or as the season gets closer. But just note that there is some expense to be able to do this. It's not just walking around. You will need some equipment to extract the sap. But it is a really fun hobby to get involved with. The second part is if you have kids, get them involved with this. This is so much fun for them. We've gotten both our daughters involved with it, and they love going out in the woods and looking for obviously bugs or just being out in the environment or helping dad out. If mom and dad are involved, they love to be part of that. And it's a hobby that so few kids get to be part of. And in today's world where they're so glued to virtual reality and not focusing enough on reality, get your kids out here and enjoying it. And if you show them what you're working on right now, and then you tell them in February, hey, we're gonna go tap some trees, they're gonna be super excited to get out there with you. And they're gonna be learning how to do this. And it's just something they get to brag about. And then the final product, obviously, the maple syrup is just the best. If you do have your kids out in the woods, even if it's your own property, I do recommend make sure you get high visibility for them because they are little. You never know. Even though if it's your own property, you never know who's out there. Always wear high visibility. I should have mine on as well right now, but I always recommend high visibility. And then, obviously as the parent, make sure you have something just in case there are any type of animals around, just to help out. You want to make sure that you are at least making sure your kids are protected and no predators are around, especially in more of the northern states where you have more bears prone to that area. Here in Ohio, we have very few bears, but never say never. This is my favorite hobby out of everything that we do on the homestead. Maple season, maple in general, is my favorite thing to do. It is a ROI that I don't get a payback financially, but the payback is the experience, the time with my kids, and obviously making maple syrup not only for my breakfast and pancakes, but you can throw it in a little bourbon, you throw it in your teas, your coffee, any type of desserts. There's whole different things you can do with pure 100% maple syrup. You'll stop forever buying whatever the store ones that you buy. Our first year we started with 3 taps. We bought a little starter kit, 3 bucket tap. And then our second year we went to 15 trees. And then our third year we went to 38. And this year we're looking to do 50. So I have a little bit of work to find some more trees out on the woods. And again, I'm not looking for an ROI as far as money, but just the experience, the knowledge, it's all priceless. And the time with your kids is absolutely priceless to have. So I encourage you guys to try it. If you're thinking about trying it, start now so you're ready to go. We'll have tons of information on our Facebook if you want to follow us from Frankies Family Homestead on our Facebook, and obviously our YouTube channel. We'll have tons of updates as new things come up. But you're going to see a lot of homesteaders that conduct maple season. They're going to start posting stuff. They should be right around now about prospecting, and then there's plenty of great maple farmers out there that can help you along. Not just obviously me, but there's forums and there's videos. There's tons of information to help someone that's new out. It's a really good community. Nobody's out to make fun of anyone that's trying something or makes a mistake or whatever like that. Everybody was all there at one point, so we get it. So we're all willing to help everyone out. So if you have any questions, always ask. We appreciate you watching this video, and if you like this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Good luck, everyone.